For folks who aren't in Amazon now, but are potentially have a decent footprint with regards to their Shopify or Magento store, are there, should they still venture into the Amazon marketplace and into the Walmart marketplaces and other marketplaces?
I get that question a lot, and it's always there's no easy answer to it. Brands that are very successful on Shopify, for example, we've worked with some brands that are doing 20, $30 million a year on Shopify, which is impressive, and don't have any Amazon presence. They will turn on Amazon and they'll start immediately doing sales, which is nice. I mean, we recently saw a brand that was doing, I think they're doing about 24 million a year on their Shopify, and within like the first 45 days, they were on like a $250,000 run rate per month on Amazon. So it is significant. You can scale up quickly when you have a big presence on other platforms or on your own platform or your own website. I would say the challenge there or the hesitation that most brands have is the cost. So if I'm letting customers buy my product from another platform, uh, are they cannibalizing my margin through the sales I would drive through my own website? Yes, probably. But the benefit of being on the other platform increases the potential visibility that you have to consumers that are not aware of your brand yet.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
Given the fact that a lot of e-commerce, the majority of e-commerce searches start on Amazon, I'm super excited to have Mike Begg with me today, who runs AMZ Advisors, that helps brands do their best to maximize revenue and profit out of the Amazon marketplace, perhaps Walmart and other marketplaces as well. So let's dive right in, Mike. What was the catalyst for you deciding that this is what you wanted to help clients with?
Well, first of all, Kevin, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm excited to be here talking with you. I kind of got down this whole e-commerce Amazon road about 8 years ago. I was originally selling products myself online. I started a couple different brands. One was in the art supply category. Another was in the outdoor sports product or outdoor goods product category. And specifically with the art supply brand, I was selling in categories that are pretty much dominated by Crayola. I mean, this was back in 2015 or so, 2014, 2015. And that when someone thinks of art supplies, you naturally think of Crayola. There's some other smaller brands, but Crayola is obviously, the elephant in the room. And what we realized is that we were coming in essentially as a startup brand, as a disruptor brand, and we were actually taking market share from Crayola. And we were like, this is interesting. Like, they don't know what they're doing online. And that's where the idea came from. It's like, hey, there's a lot of brands that have a lot more ad budget, that have a lot more experience, that have better, how do I say, our weakness was on the supply chain side. I guess that was really my challenge, figuring out how to order inventory, how to plan that stuff. Let me deal with companies that have all of that figured out, and let me just help them with the marketing and sales. And that's how AMZ Advisors came about. We've been running it for almost 9 years at this point, and we've worked with close to, I think, over 500 brands. We've generated close to $1 billion in sales at this point. It's been a fun ride.
Cool, cool. That's a great origin story, and leads me to an interesting question, which is when there's a big brand or big brands or big players in Amazon, one of the things that some marketers will do is they'll want to do the competitive conquest, basically advertise against the other ASINs and try to get that message in there right before the person's ready to buy that other brand. You want to basically jump in and grab that purchase. So there are probably scenarios where that works and probably some scenarios where that doesn't work. And I'm not just speaking to the initial purchase, but more, does the person become a long-term customer of yours as a result of competitive conquest? So I'd love to get any thoughts you have on, can you predict when that's going to work and when that's not going to work?
It's tough. I mean, generally, when we're talking about, as we pretty much are focused on performance marketing more than anything, generally we stay away from that strategy, because if someone is searching for a brand, the performance is going to be pretty bad. If you're searching for Apple, the odds of you buying a Samsung phone are pretty low. And the odds of me running a Samsung ad against Apple is probably not going to convert very well. So when we think about it from that way, if it's a branded search, no, we're not really going to try to conquest that way. Where we will really focus our ad strategy on is actually on the product detail page itself. And it's really we're focused more in mid funnel at that point. Is like, how do we create more consideration for our brand? And I mean, cell phones are a bad example because customer loyalty is so high there. But supplements, for example, or nutritional products, there's a better opportunity there. So what we'll focus on is more the sponsored display advertising, the sponsored product advertising, showing up right below the buy box, showing up right below the bullet points at the bottom of the page. Some pages will have the sponsored brand headline at the top, trying to get into those places where we can get our brand name associated or seen with the competitor products, so customers will start considering us in the future. That's really where we focus a lot of our conquesting from that standpoint, trying to just create more brand awareness for our brand with people that are already in market.
Great. That's some excellent advice. A lot of folks who come to Amazon sponsored listings are used to a lot of the targeting levers that they might have available within a Google AdWords. And Google's taken away some of the targeting ad levers as they move more to PMAX and try to push PMAX on advertisers. But there's still a lot of different targeting levers one has available to oneself in Google that just don't exist in Amazon. And so you sort of have to take everything that they give you with a lot of these targeting levers. But what are some targeting methodologies that perhaps people aren't aware of that they could use to refine the click stream and refine the impressions that they get?
Yeah, I mean, from a impression standpoint, if we're trying to maximize visibility, I mean, the audience targeting and the in-market targeting on the sponsored display and the DSP side is probably two of the most powerful things. Actually, when you get to the programmatic advertising through the DSP platform, the targeting is actually really, really powerful. You get a lot of advertising opportunities both on platform, off platform, through different ad networks, all of that. And the great thing is kind of targeting all customer purchase behavior on platform, which is massive. It's probably one of the biggest advantages you can have from an e-commerce standpoint. But yeah, if we're focused top of funnel, we're going to focus a lot on that audience targeting, in market targeting, trying to find people that are interested in our products. Affinity targeting is another thing we can do with Amazon Marketing Cloud, finding what affinity groups have the highest purchase affinity and then trying to target more of those. That's really all about reach. That's really all about awareness. When we're focused lower funnel, we're looking at how are we showing up for all the relevant search terms? How are we being defensive and protecting our own stuff? How are we retargeting both people that have viewed our product detail pages and purchased our product and try to get them to come back and buy the product for the first time or to repeat purchase if possible. Those are kind of like different ways that we can control things on platform. But the targeting is getting more and more advanced, and the options for ad creatives are also improving. So there's a lot of new ways that you can leverage the new features coming out from Amazon all the time to improve or refine your targeting even more.
Cool. One thing I find a lot of folks aren't even aware of is the power of the brand referral bonus.
Yeah.
The fact that conversion rate on Amazon for Amazon customers who are used to using Amazon as their primary way of shopping, the conversion rate's actually in some cases considerably higher than, for example, a Shopify site for the same exact brand, and that in some cases they might be better off sending the click over to Amazon, even though there's a chance of competitive conquest on the platform. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on sort of when to use brand referral bonuses, when not to use it, when should you use it in combination with, click attribution and sort of fun ways to combine everything together.
I would say try to use it as much as possible. I mean, you pretty much nailed it right there. When we look at the average conversion rate on Amazon, it's about 8%. When we look at what we've seen, at least on Shopify stores, average conversion rate somewhere between 1 to 3%. So you're looking at least 2.5 times performance that you're going to be getting from driving traffic to Amazon. Now, the brand referral bonus itself is essentially Amazon's attribution and tracking system. What they do is that when you drive an off-platform sale or an off-platform visitor to Amazon, if they buy the product, they will give you a 10% credit towards the Amazon fulfillment fees or the FBA fees that they're charging on the account. So that can be massive. If we're looking at it from like a ROAS standpoint, you're essentially adding back to your ROAS once you consider that credit that Amazon's providing for you. So The way that we're leveraging the brand referral bonus is particularly on affiliate marketing. So with attribution, we focus a lot on influencers. We focus a lot on publications, other affiliate networks, some media buyers, where we will try to incentivize them with a commission. So let's say that we're incentivizing them with a 15 to 20% commission. We know that we're getting a 10% credit back, so our actual cost will go down after we pay that commission, and the additional traffic they'll drive will only benefit the listing. So it's really a win-win for the marketers that are able to leverage that, and for the affiliates, because if you incentivize them the right way, they're going to make a lot of money. You're going to make a lot of money, and like I said, everyone wins at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think a lot of people also don't realize that is anything that you use to incentivize those affiliates is over and above their associates commission.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the average Amazon Associates commission, I think, is about 8% or less. What we do with our clients is we're usually offering between 15 to 20% commission per sale. It depends on each brand and what their profitability, what their margin is. But that, like you said, that's essentially doubling what they'd be making on Amazon Associates. So it gives them that much more of an incentive to be able to push our products. So they're already pushing our products through associates. Why not find people that are going to become much more active in the promotion of our products by incentivizing them with a little bit more money?
So you talked about the word promotion, right? Which, of course, some promotional dollars end up often accruing to the consumer's benefit, right? Because there's a lot of ways you can use the promotional features within Amazon FBA to, whether it's couponing or discounts, et cetera. So how should folks think about layering that in when they're going to use an influencer, for example, and the influencer would also like to make it special for their followers, right? Do you recommend that you layer on promotions from that perspective as well?
Yes. I mean, I think if you have the margin to do it, I mean, when we're talking about a commission kind of in the range I was talking, 15, 20%, we're getting 10% back from Amazon. We could essentially pass that 10% savings on as an additional coupon to incentivize the customers, the audience of the affiliate or the influencer or whoever it is. That's a great way to pass that through. But the other thing that I really like to consider is like, what is the product or what is the business model that the brand has? So coupons are great. They can increase conversion rates. Promotional codes are great. The biggest thing is subscribe and save. And you can actually offer coupons to get people into subscribe and save. So subscribe and save is essentially a loyalty program where someone buys your product, they get a discount on each additional purchase there. Now, your product has to be consumable. It has to be something that consumers are repeat purchasing. But if we think about it from that standpoint, and we're getting a low customer acquisition cost from these affiliates and from these influencers, and able to push them with a coupon into subscribe and save, where we're going to maximize the customer lifetime value. Now that's an ultimate win-win. Most brands that are one-off purchase or that not a consumable product, there's no benefit from that standpoint. I mean, you're looking at more of a what's my ROAS or what's my actual customer acquisition cost to maximize my margin. But when you have a consumable product and you can actually consider customer lifetime value, that's where we really see like the big wins for people.
Right, right. Well, I remember, in the earlier days of sponsored listings, the prices were a lot cheaper. Some of the categories have gotten pretty hyper competitive. So
Yeah.
when a prospect or client comes on board and they're in one of the hyper competitive categories where perhaps some of their competitors are spending drunken sailor money and actually doing things that are irrational, how do you deal with an irrational marketplace from a category perspective?
Well, I mean, we obviously try not to drink the punch with everybody else. No, we try to focus on profitability and maximizing the returns for our clients. I mean, you said it, there are plenty of categories that are out of control. Supplements is one of them because they are more focused on customer acquisition than anything. When you look at cost per clicks in some of those categories, they're extremely high. Suggested bids from Amazon are extremely high, specifically on products like whey protein. Sometimes we see them as high as $25, $30 per click, which is insane. Obviously, unless you're converting very well, it's very difficult to make money on that. That's where we really take a step back and say, hey, like, how can we figure out other traffic sources where we can leverage the conversion rates of Amazon, but have people avoid all of the other competitor products? So like a good example, whey protein. You go to Amazon, search whey protein. You're going to get, I don't know, 30,000 results, let's say. And if your product's not there in the top 3, and those are the sponsored product placements, The next three are typically going to be your organic listings. If you're not in those organic ones, how do we figure out other ways to get traffic to your listing and get customers to purchase the product? That's really where the affiliate, where the off platform, all of that type of stuff, even public relations can become really powerful here. Is how do we drive traffic that is going to convert more than it would on our Shopify website, or on the client's Shopify website, I should say, without going crazy on ad dollars. And we've already briefly talked about it, but you're going to get a much better return on advertising by bringing cheaper traffic to the platform and getting them to convert there.
Yeah, one of the things I started in SEO, started in long pre-Google, 1996. So I've been doing SEO longer than a lot of folks, including Larry and Sergey. But one of the things that people don't fully comprehend, I think, is the power of SEO within the Amazon platform, right? That often a product has a ranking opportunity within Amazon that's basically free traffic. If you do the proper listings and product page optimizations, you can actually get yourself to rank in a Google SERP or a Bing SERP. Do you feel like that opportunity remains pretty strong, or do you feel like that's tapped out?
No, I mean, there's still opportunity for it. It is challenging, though. I mean, the top products are typically the ones that are performing the best on Google SEO as well. So being an upstart brand, it's a little bit more challenging to get those results. But when we think about Amazon itself as a platform, and from an SEO standpoint, like, the domain authority is insane. I mean, it's one of the top 10 websites on the internet. So any product detail page has the potential to rank really well. Now, I think the key here is finding and identifying specific niches where maybe online SEO or off-platform SEO for other websites is not as strong. And that's where you will be able to get that return. But again, using the example of whey protein, I'm sure there are, I don't know, hundreds of results that are indexed for on Google or on other search platforms for whey protein that are leading to Amazon. So it's very difficult to break in there once something starts converting well, as it's building links, as it's building more traffic. That is one of the challenges. It's possible, but again, I wouldn't expect it to happen overnight.
Great. Moving sort of back to the influencer conversation a little bit, certain platforms on which influencers have decent reach don't lend themselves to click behavior, right? You can hypothetically have coupon codes.
Yeah.
Sometimes influencers would prefer to have, if they've got big email lists, they prefer to have, single-use codes, but obviously you can also give them a code that isn't a single-use code. So what are some best practices around, when it's a TikToker or an Instagram or, YouTube, you can at least include a link, right?
Yeah.
The consumer can go and find the link and follow that. But for a lot of these social media platforms that have reach, the influencer is going to be sort of forced to use a call to action, which gets the person to stop what they're doing, stop scrolling, and take an action pretty quickly to remember a code or use a code.
Yeah, I mean, that's a challenge. The first thing to think about here is obviously the attribution. So we talked about Amazon attribution, brand referral bonus a little bit. Obviously, best practices within that are, and brands approach it in two different ways mainly. They either are going to create links or create campaigns based around product offer, or they're going to create different campaigns based on affiliate or based on influencer. Either way is a good way to organize. It just depends what your preference is. So from an attribution and tracking standpoint, that's going to be best practice for setting it up. When it comes to the actual offer or promotion that the influencers are going to be pushing, I would typically recommend creating separate codes for each influencer. It's pretty simple to do within the platform, but it's also a good way for you to be able to attribute each individual sale back. The affiliate links will do that for you. But again, if we're trying to make a unique offer, a unique call to action to each influencer for them to push their audience and for their audience to enjoy the benefit, I would probably recommend creating separate codes for each individual influencer that you're going to be working with.
When you've done that, what's the sort of level of leakage of those codes, right? Because obviously the affiliate link, the associates link, that's a hard and fast link. That one's pretty accurate with regards to being able to say, oh yeah, this influencer generated this sale. But sometimes when it's not a single-use code, you get the code sort of bleeding their way out into the broader ecosystem. I mean, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Should you just it's just a fact of life?
It depends a lot. So there is a lot of leakage. I mean, it could be, and it depends on the platform. So that's like the main thing to consider. For example, a platform like Instagram, you can direct link if you wanted to through an Instagram profile. TikTok, you can't direct link to Amazon anymore. So you'd have to go through like a link tree or some linking tool like that to be able to put the link in there. So what we typically see is between 20 to 25%, especially on TikTok. That's where we see like the higher numbers, where customers will see the offer, they'll see the code, and they'll go directly to Amazon, and they won't use the attribution link. They'll never click through. They'll just go find the product and purchase it that way. So
Right.
we do see that. It is common. And it really comes down to the platform. But in general, for other platforms like Facebook, like Instagram, where you can direct link to the product page, it actually does work pretty well. The leakage is lower on those platforms.
Cool. Are there any other sort of promotional techniques that you think are underutilized by FBA merchants?
I mean, those are the big ones. I think we've been talking about influencer, we've been talking about affiliate. Where we've seen a lot of strength over the past year and a half or so has been TikTok shops, and obviously TikTok is always in the news right now with different things going on. But when we have worked with brands that have been actively promoting on TikTok shops and actively advertising on TikTok, the spillover of searches on Amazon is high. So consumers will have the opportunity to purchase the product on TikTok. But in general, when we think of trust, when we think of consumer confidence, they have much more confidence in going to Amazon. So while a video might go viral or while an ad might reach a ton of people and actually create a lot of product interest, we will actually see a sales lift on the Amazon side from that advertising. So I think that's where a lot of brands are not focused right now. I mean, especially brands that are Amazon native, they're so focused on Amazon. But when you're able to start leveraging a lot of other platforms where there's attention, like TikTok, you'll start actually seeing sales lift on the Amazon side from all the views and all the impressions that you're getting.
So one of the areas that is of more concern in certain industry categories than others, certainly in the nutraceutical category, supplements category, the idea of claims and making sure claims aren't being made is a huge area and a little bit dangerous when you start layering in influencers. And I think that's why people prefer to use a few medium to large ones as opposed to an army of smaller ones, only because of that. But I'm sure that claims also become an issue outside of supplements as well. Are there any best practices as to sort of the cat herding of your influencers and how to sort of keep them in line to where they don't go crazy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really comes down to organizing the campaigns well and structuring them well. I mean, best practices, we always recommend creating essentially brand briefs or creative briefs for each piece of content that's going to be going out. These are the things you can say. These are the things you can say. Focus on these areas. We're creating content for these people, letting them know who they're trying to reach. The right way to communicate things is the best way to be proactive on making sure people aren't claiming things that are just out of the blue. Obviously, with Amazon Associates, with some of mainly Amazon Associates, anyone can promote a product, so we don't have full control over it. But when we're organizing and running an active campaign, usually starting with a branding brief is a good way to make sure that they're hitting on the key points that you want to cover and not straying too far into areas that are gray or areas that you don't want to cover or that might cause a claim problem.
Right. As far as when you're implementing those kinds of either brand referral bonus programs or other similar programs that layer into performance marketing and use maybe the associates program at the same time, is there sort of a sweet spot where, because you can't go up to the Kardashians because you can't afford them, right? And if you go too far into the long tail, it's like a lot of work to manage them. So do you find that there's a sweet spot there with regards to where it's manageable?
Yeah, I mean, so what we found is that usually we call them micro influencers, but usually influencers that are between like 5 and 20,000 are kind of the sweet spot for us because we're able to get enough reach, we're able to get enough impressions. Typically, with that many followers, they usually have a higher engagement, which means that their video content is actually getting more visibility on platforms because of all the likes and all the engagement they're getting. So we do see some benefits from that, from additional reach beyond who their existing audience is, especially with like Instagram Reels. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we focus. Mainly they have to be interested again in like a CPA type of plan. I mean, people that want money up front, we typically won't work with, mainly because the return, we don't know what it is until after the fact. If we've worked with someone before, we may, make an exception there. But most of the time, people in that range are open to CPA, or at least open to, receiving the product as a sample in addition to CPA, so they can actually create the content. That's kind of where we see win-wins for everybody. We don't have to invest a lot of money for our brands up front. And then the influencers or the affiliates or whoever they may be are actually making a return from creating or incentivized to create better content, try to get more of their audience to actually purchase the product, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Great. Well, both Amazon and the Federal Trade Commission here in the United States have strong opinions about, stuff being disclosed when there's any sort of quid pro quo going on. So I'd love your advice on sort of how to best manage that from a sort of compliance basis. Do you feel like that's become a challenge, or do you feel like that in general, the people understand that stuff needs to be disclosed?
No, I don't think it's actually been that much of a challenge. I mean, I think the people we've worked with so far, at least, have experience in the field, so they understand what they need to say or what they can't say. And when we're working a lot with affiliate networks, or we're working with publications, for example, they don't have as many issues with this. They have the teams inside that can make sure everything's compliant. We really don't have those types of challenges. So if you're starting out, really starting with some, young influencers, I mean, not young, but like early in the game, I guess, like that, not really used to it, that's probably where you're going to run into it a little bit more. But if they've already been doing these types of promotions, they're familiar with CPA types of partnerships, it's very unlikely that you're going to have a big issue there.
A lot of brands may not be familiar with the fact that a lot of publications, just as a result of the craziness of being in the publishing world these days and ad rates within programmatic, have started to really embrace performance-based marketing as another revenue leg. So when, as an agency, you're starting to decide who to reach out to on the publisher side, how much does that end up moving the needle for some of your clients? This idea that folks that are fairly well-known publishers may end up really moving the needle for some brands.
It does. It moves the needle significantly. And we've done a few campaigns recently with a few very large publishers, and we see a significant return on it. The initial effort for us to put it in is a lot of grinding, a lot of trying to hit up the editorial teams or get in touch with the right person at the publication to be able to promote it. But frequently what we find is that when we find that right person, or when we get the product, the content piece published, we see benefits in a variety of different ways. Normally, the traffic that they're getting through their own website is leading to additional sales. But in most instances, the content that's being created is being emailed out to their audiences. And that's where we start seeing the real big benefit, is now that not only are we benefiting from an SEO standpoint and from a traffic standpoint of that website having so many visitors, now we're getting email marketing going, and that actually leads to another kick. So it's been substantial. I would say like some of the highest one-off pieces have generated between $50,000 to $60,000.
That's fascinating. I mean, email obviously is one form of push that publishers and some influencers have access to. But there are other sort of forms of push that might be used in certain cases. You've got, browser-based push notifications. You've got SMS in some cases, but SMS is not cheap. So are either of the other push channels or any other push channels starting to gain momentum in conjunction with email?
We have not focused on many other channels apart from like email and like the publications. So, I mean, I'm sure there are other ones that are worthwhile testing. It's just that we haven't invested our time into it. We've seen pretty good results with the system that we've created for our clients on how to reach out, how to do these publications, how to do the CPAs with influencers and other affiliates. And we've kind of focused in that area. But yeah, there certainly are other ways to drive through different marketing ideas.
So what are some other factors that FBA merchants should be sort of thinking about as they go through the campaign optimization themselves? And at what point should they call in a professional like yourself?
Typically when it becomes not worth your time, or it's too time consuming for you to figure it out on your own. I mean, when we're looking at an influencer, when we're looking at these types of campaigns in general, they're very time consuming because there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of reach out, a lot of responding to questions. So generally, if you are getting to the point where you're looking at running that, it's usually better having someone else run it for you. I would say other considerations is just really around profitability. When we look at Amazon itself as a platform, it is becoming more and more expensive to sell on Amazon from advertising standpoint, but also from the fees that Amazon charges. This year, they rolled out a whole bunch of new fees that are going to end up costing the sellers more in the long term. So when you think about it from that standpoint, you need to figure out the cheapest way to drive traffic or the most efficient way to drive traffic. Typically, that's going to lead you back to the same thing is like, okay, well, how do I find cheaper traffic sources outside of Amazon because my cost per click or my return on advertising on Amazon continues to decrease over time.
So Amazon continues to roll out some new things pretty much all the time. I mean, it's not brand new, but you've got seller fulfilled Prime, for example, and some other areas that are new. How should marketers think about, which of those things to try and how to go through the process of trying those new things that show up on Amazon?
Well, every feature is different and it really depends on what the operational requirement is. So seller fulfilled Prime is one example you brought up. If your warehouse doesn't have the capability to cover most of the country within 2 days, well, it doesn't really make sense for you to run that. You're better off doing FBA because it's going to give you less complaints. It's going to cause less issues, less account health issues. So it's really going to come down to what your capabilities are as a brand. Now, I always recommend testing new features that come out. A good example of this is Amazon Posts. Amazon Posts are still free. They've been rolled out for about 2 years now, I think, at this point. But it's a good way to drive free traffic on platform. Another good example of this right now is Amazon Influencers, Creator Connections. All of these different features that Amazon rolls out give you a limited window to test things. There was another one that came out, I think it was about a year and a half ago, called Manage Your Own Experiments or Manage Custom Experiences. I forgot what it was called, but it was essentially email marketing within the Amazon platform. And people that took advantage of it were able to get a good return. But hey, guess what? Amazon just closed the program a couple months ago. So opportunities will come and go. And I think it's always important to be testing this stuff. And from the standpoint of having the capabilities of doing it yourself or working with someone that can test it for you, it's really figuring out what's going to be the best use of your time as the brand owner.
For folks who aren't in Amazon now, but are potentially have a decent footprint with regards to their Shopify or Magento store, are there, should they still venture into the Amazon marketplace and into the Walmart marketplaces and other marketplaces?
I get that question a lot, and it's always, there's no easy answer to it. Brands that are very successful on Shopify, for example, we've worked with some brands that are doing $20-30 million a year on Shopify, which is impressive, and don't have any Amazon presence. They will turn on Amazon and they'll start immediately doing sales, which is nice. I mean, we recently saw a brand that was doing, I think they're doing about 24 million a year on their Shopify. And within like the first 45 days, they were on like a $250,000 run rate per month on Amazon. So it is significant. You can scale up quickly when you have a big presence on other platforms or on your own platform or your own website. I would say the challenge there or the hesitation that most brands have is the cost. So if I'm letting customers buy my product from another platform, are they cannibalizing my margin through the sales I would drive through my own website? Yes, probably. But the benefit of being on the other platform increases the potential visibility that you have to consumers that are not aware of your brand yet. So it's a very difficult trade-off, and not every brand likes Amazon, but brands that are doing well on their own platform have a very good chance to scale up quickly on Amazon. And again, depending on competition, depending on what your costs are going to be for a certain product vertical, it may make sense for your brand to be on Amazon as well.
Yeah, well, one thing's for sure is a lot of brands have a love-hate relationship with Amazon as a result of Amazon owning the customer relationship. But at the same time, I think the point you're making is that the consumer will shop where the consumer wants to shop. Right.
Exactly.
And if you're not there, you're not going to get the sale, and somebody else will. So for
100%.
those folks who are, waffling about, being in the Amazon marketplace, you probably should at least put your toe, if not your whole foot in the water.
100%, because you'll find, for example, if you're a big brand and you have your own website and customers know the brand, you'll find on Amazon, if you're not there, that your competitors are advertising on your brand name, and there's no protection there. It's lost sales and potentially lost customers. So, yeah, that's a very good point that you bring up as well. You're always, if you're not there for the customer to be found, your competitors are going to be taking advantage of that.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts that we didn't cover with regards to best practices in taking full advantage of the Amazon marketplace?
I mean, I think just a quick one. We've talked about different aspects of the marketing funnel. We've talked a lot about top of funnel, mainly with affiliate awareness and audience targeting and in-market targeting. Obviously, that's great. We want to focus on middle funnel by targeting competitor products, targeting products that are in category. But at the end of the day, your sponsored products, which is your bottom of the funnel, is where you're actually going to drive all the revenue. So when we're looking at how do we actually distribute our budget, the bulk of your budget needs to be on sponsored products, because that's where you're actually going to see the direct return on your advertising. Where if you're focused on top of funnel or middle funnel, the ROAS that you're going to get is going to be much lower. So when we focus on how do we manage our overall advertising plan, again, focus heavily on sponsored products and bottom of funnel.
Great. Well, I appreciate you sharing all those best practices with me and the viewers/listeners. Appreciate you educating us.
No problem, Kevin. Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.